What's going on, guys? Junior's Fishing Company with a little transitional video today. So it is like officially March 1st or something like that, and I'm starting to kind of put away the size 14s and bring out the 4/0s. So I thought I would do, this is going to be a pretty long video today, pretty detailed video, but I thought, I haven't uploaded one of these videos yet, and this is what I originally started tying when I started actually tying stuff. I'm going to be tying a musky marabou, kind of, I mean, bucktails are a pretty relative term in the musky world. I mean, people throw bucktails that are all tinsel. So this is going to be just a marabou bucktail with this one here. This is strung saddle. You can use, today I'm going to be using just an American rooster saddle. This is one I bought a couple years ago. These are just really expensive. I've only got a couple of these, and it's so much easier just to spend 40 bucks on 4 or 5 different strung saddles than it is to just buy one of these colors. But these are beautiful feathers. So a good chunk of this video is going to be fast forwarded, just because it's really just a lot of putting down marabou, and you really don't want to watch me do that for an hour. But I really just kind of wanted to go into a little bit of detail about how I'm going to build this, and then you can watch me build it, and then we'll see it at the end. So first, what I just want to show you is how I build this, what I build this bait on. So I've got, there's a couple different things I've used in the past, but this is just what I've got kind of at my house right now. This is just a K&S precision metal brass tube. These are like foot long. These are 3/32 by 0.014. I really don't know exactly. I mean, I think they're like a foot long, and they're just the perfect diameter, and brass is plenty strong for you to wrap as much as you want. It's strong enough where you're not going to be bending it out or anything. So what I do is I'll take one of those foot long strips and I'll Dremel them down to like 2-inch segments. So you have a 2-inch segment just like this, and then I'll kind of file down the sides just so you're not cutting your thread or even, your hands on them. And then I'll put it, I don't have a tube vise. So if you have a tube vise, you can probably fast forward through this, because you can probably just stick this in your tube thing and you'd be good to go. But what I end up doing, this is 0.061 wire, super, super thick. But I want something that's this barely fits in there, and I'm just gonna kind of slide that on, and because this brass isn't gonna fit in my vise, so I need something to pinch this down. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna set this in my vise, and I'm gonna push. I just want it to be tight in there, so I'm gonna kind of push down, and then I can just tighten my vise up. And that's going to allow me, it's not going to be perfectly straight, I can see that in there, but this is going to be nice and tight in this vise, so I can wrap and wrap and wrap. I'm just going to let it kind of sit like this. There are some places online, Lure Parts Online, and probably a bunch of other places, that you can buy these springs. These springs, I mean, they're bendable, you can definitely bend them, but they're super strong, and I mean, you could easily just buy, I think these come in like 6-packs or something like that. You can use these too, but they're a lot thicker than that brass, and in the past, they're really hard to cut. So if you're obviously, I mean, this is a really long piece of spring, and you're not necessarily going to use the whole thing, so I just found that it was really inconvenient to try and cut. When I'm done with this, whether I'm here, or all the way up, I can just Dremel off the rest and file it down, and it's going to be a perfect transition to my bait. And that's kind of the next thing I wanted to get into. So deciding how long you want this bait to be, it really is going to come down to what your bait is going to be put on. So here I've just got kind of the upper part of what this is going to be, a musky bucktail. So I've just got the upper part of this. I can always take a couple beads off if I really, really need to, but I just kind of want, this is, I think I measured this before, this is a little over 3 inches, including this eye. And so if I tie to about, let's just say I tie about halfway, then I know how long this bait is going to be. And so you can kind of measure this out. I'm going to have this bait, I'm going to have some of my feathers run just a little bit past my brass, which is going to give me a bait between 9 and 10 inches, maybe. I really don't want to go below 9. And that sounds really big, but it really isn't, because the marabou shrinks down quite a bit. And really a 9-inch bucktail isn't, for musky, isn't some huge gaudy thing. Now, in terms of marabou, I mean, there's probably 70 different colors of marabou that you can get. I'm going to do kind of a really, really bright bait. And so I'm going to do a little base of red, and then I'm going to put my blue. I really don't know what color this is. I bought this from the Feather Emporium, which is a great feather spot if you're ever looking for feathers. The Feather Emporium, and these were on clearance for like, I think this saddle was like $25. So I'm going to put these right over my red. I want something under those feathers so they don't just stick together and it's one little piece of feather. I kind of want them to be separate in the water so they move. So I'm going to put down some red, and then I've got yellow, chartreuse, and orange. So I'm just going to do, after I put my blue feathers down, I'm going to put my yellow, my green, and then my orange. I'm going to kind of stack them like that. So it's going to be, I mean, you could obviously just, as you see as I wrap, you can alternate colors throughout. It's totally, totally up to you. The last thing I want to show you before I start tying is you kind of, in my opinion, I've tied quite a bit of these, and there's really one of two ways I prefer to put these feathers down. The first way is the way that I'm going to do in this video. It takes a little bit longer, but I like how it ends up. What I'm going to do, and this takes a while, is I'm going to end up stripping all of this marabou off and then putting it on each stack at a time. And as I do it, I'll just rotate my vise and I'll just put them 360 around. I'll probably end up, you'll see, I'll fast forward it, but you'll see I just pinch off a little bit and then I flip the feather around and I take the same amount there. And so it ends up being about 2 little stacks of marabou, and I'll put it down and I'll wrap it, and then I'll just keep repeating that process again and again and again. What you can do, and what I do actually like doing as well, but you just sometimes don't have enough feathers to do this. If you see the difference between these two marabou feathers, the stems are crazy different. If you've got a ton of marabou that you can burn through and you really don't care about wasting all your good marabou on one bait, if you grab these really thin stemmed feathers, you can really just pinch them together and pinch like this and cut right here and lay these down, and there really isn't, these thin ones, there's almost no stem in here, so you really don't have to worry about, you know, if some people would put down, they'll just grab a feather like this and they'll just put it down. Well, that stem in there is really thick, and I just really don't prefer to do that. That's the quickest, easiest way to do it. But so if you filter through all your marabou and you grab your thin stuff, that'll be a quicker way to do it, and it'll turn out just as beautiful. But I'm going to do the other way. I'm going to strip them. The last thing before I get tying, I'm going to start with 210 white. You could easily do 140. I do 140, but I'm just going to do 210 just because I've got it right here. And at the end, you're going to have a pretty big thread bump at the end, and I'm actually going to build one, but I want it to match the blue in this. So I've just got peacock blue, and this is 140, just because at the end I want to be a little more detailed about how to build that head. So I just wanted something that's going to match that. Why did I choose blue feathers with this bright bait? I really don't know. I think it's going to turn out nice. There's a billion different combinations you could do this, but let's get tying. Alright, so if you stuck with it this long, I appreciate it. This ended up being about 6.5 inches, which means if I have 3 inches of bead and weight and blade on there, it's going to be about 9.5 inches, which is what I was thinking. I used about, I think like 16, 17 feathers on this, maybe 1 or 2, give or take. This definitely isn't the biggest marabou musky bait I've ever made. I just didn't want this video to be 2 hours long. You could go as long as you want. You could make this a 7-inch, 8-inch, 9-inch big marabou bucktail. You could make it a lot more dense too. This is pretty dense, but you could make it a lot more dense. Again, I didn't want to do too much because I didn't want this video just to go on for days. But what I'm going to end up doing, I put a little head cement kind of right on this little head or whatever you want to call it. I'm going to let that harden really well, and then you can just see I've got some brass right here, and I'll just Dremel right up until my thread. And really, when that head cement hardens, it gets soaked into that thread, and so you can hit that thread with the Dremel, and whenever you get it filed down and cleaned up, you can just dab a little bit more head cement on there, and it'll clean right up, so you won't have to worry about that. But there you have it, a Chartreuse, super bright marabou bait, some blue feathers. I just think that blue is just going to look really, really good, especially if you have some silver blades, and like I did here, this is probably what I'll end up putting on here. I think I've got a number 8 Indiana and just a really big mag blade, so that's probably what I'm going to end up putting on. I don't know, again, there's a bazillion different combinations you could do, but nice and fluffy, a lot of movement in the water, a little bit of gold tinsel in there for some flash. Here in Minnesota, we're knocking on spring's door. Musky fishing's not for another 3 months, but I just wanted to get this video out there, and because I haven't uploaded a video like this before. So like and subscribe, drop some comments below. It's springtime, time for some jigs, deer hair jigs, stuff like that. See you in the next one.